Hello, welcome to Dundrol's podcast. I'm Rose Justin. Welcome to night 4 of Vampire Week. Today we're reviewing the 1994 vampire film Nadja, which is an hour and 33 minutes. It's directed by Michael Almereyda, starring Elina Löwensohn as Nadja, Peter Fonda as Dr. Van Helsing, who also played Dracula in the film. But you don't really see Dracula's face. You got Donovan from Tenet as Jim, Galaxy Craze as Lucy, his wife. You have Karl Geary as Dracula, and Jared Harris is in the film as Edgar. Who Jared Harris is was in one of our most recent movie reviews. He was in the Marvel film Morbius. So this movie. I've been wanting to watch this movie for a while now because David Lynch had a small cameo in the film as morgue assistant or whatever, and like when you watch the film, it says presented by David Lynch, which is kind of a lot of the times you watch a movie where it says it's presented by a famous director, usually the movie sucks, and that was just like a favor for somebody, right? Like if you ever seen the film Hell Ride, which is presented by Quentin Tarantino, and you watch the movie, it's a garbage movie that I think the only reason why Quentin Tarantino put his name on it, because like either as a favor for Michael Madsen or Dennis Hopper, it was a favor for somebody who was in the movie, right? But here, the movie, you can kind of tell that this is like David Lynch probably actually liked the film because it's black and white. It's a black and white film. It's like a horror drama. It's very surreal-esque in the film. The film takes place in New York, and the story of the movie is one of the main characters of the film is Nadja, who is the daughter of Dracula, who's living in New York with her manservant Renfield, who's this Irish guy, and she goes around she goes out at night, flirting with people, like dancing, drinking, and like a lot of smoking in the film. All the vampires smoke in the film. This movie is very 90s indie film. There's literally a scene where Peter Fonda's character, Abraham Van Helsing, is talking to his nephew, Jim, who's played by Martin Donovan, is like telling him all about vampires on top of like a building, on a roof of a building, which almost every independent like 90s film had a scene where like actors would have a conversation on a rooftop. Right. Even Quentin Tarantino did that shit. So yeah, like Nadja, goes out, likes to tell people her men her story, and like seduces them, and then kills them, right, for their blood. So she finds out that like her father Dracula has been murdered, right, and is super excited. She immediately has him cremated, right, and goes to find her brother, who she's estranged from because like he hates her, right. While that's going on, you're introduced to Jim, who's played by Martin Donovan, who's like boxing, and then his wife, his beautiful wife, comes in, who's you can tell it's a 90s film because you have women with short haircuts and like dressed as guys, but they're not lesbians because that was just how people kind of dressed in the grungy like 90s. And this movie is very grunge, not so much the music, but like the atmosphere, right? And she goes to tell him, "Hey, your father's been arrested for murder. He staked the guy," which his uncle, who he goes out drinking a lot with, who's played by Peter Fonda. And Peter Fonda, usually in movies, man, he's like the shittiest actor in movies. Here he actually gives like a cool performance, and he was the best part of the film, right? Because he's a vampire hunter who's a little crazy, but he's right. He's a little kooky, but he's right. Right, and there's some like there's some like funny moments with him, right? That's played straight, but there's like wacky dialogue in the film for this serious like art house surrealistic film, right? That's completely in black and white, right? And the movie, I don't even think is in print. I had to watch this movie on YouTube, right? And there's like random scenes in the movie where the movie is like out of focus, and it's all like pixelated. I have no idea that happens almost in like all the action scenes in the movie. So I'm like, okay, is that intentionally? Is that intentional? Or is that the fucking my copy of the movie that I'm watching on YouTube? I have no idea. I think it's intentional, right? So yeah, what happens is that Martin Donovan wife, while he's like Martin Donovan's out drinking with his uncle, who's telling him, "Hey, I'm a vampire. Me and your dad are vampire hunters. Dracula's out there, and he has like twins, right? And he's like worried that they're gonna like retrieve the body and resurrect Dracula, because it's not enough just to stake him. You have to cut off his head and burn his body," which Nadja does with Renfield. So what happens is that Nadja sees Lucy at a bar. They start talking, and then they start talking. Lucy invites her over to her home, and she gets finger banged by Nadja. This is another lesbian vampire movie, but unlike with the other lesbian vampire movie where it was like kind of metaphorical and hinted at, they just straight up like have like she has like an affair with like Nadja, the female vampire, right? And it's funny because right before she has the affair, she's like, "Oh, my husband's not happy. I think he's fucking around," trying to justify her affair, the affair she's about to have, right? When we know he's off, with his uncle, right? So yeah, the next morning she starts acting weird. And she starts bleeding a lot. She doesn't eat, and like right away they know like something's wrong. And then they apparently, during their love affair, right, she took pictures of herself with the vampire, right? And there's like a scene where like Martin Donovan and Peter Fonda are looking at photos of the affair, and he's trying to reenact, Peter Fonda's trying to reenact the pictures on the camera, because there's apparently one of the photos, you don't see the photos, but you don't see her reflection in the mirror, right? So they figure out, oh, Lucy has been attacked by a vampire and is turning into a vampire, right? So Peter Fonda, Abraham Van Helsing, Jim have to go and kill Nadja to save Lucy, who's turning into a vampire, right? It's very similar plotline to the Dracula movies, right? So like while that's going on, enter Jared Harris, who's being taken care of by Cassandra, who is the sister of Jim. So the movie's very interconnected, right? Who Cassandra is like the nurse of Edgar, who's purposely like who's very sick, who we think is trying to kill himself by not drinking blood, right? So he's very sick, and he's in love with his nurse, right? So like Nadja kidnaps Jared Harris' character Edgar, who's her twin brother, and also kidnaps Cassandra and takes her to like the Dracula's home in New York, right? Where our characters have a confrontation, right? A confrontation, but like what Nadja flees with Cassandra and Renfield, right? And Edgar, who was being treated by Nadja against his will, is now back to health, like full health, because she was giving him plasma, right? So like Edgar teams up with Abraham Van Helsing and Jim and Lucy, and they go to Romania to track down Nadja and kill her, right? Right, because she gets injured. She kills like 2 mechanics, right? Because like Cassandra runs away, Nadja chases her. She goes into an auto repair shop. She kills 2 mechanics. And Jim shows up with a cop. The cop starts shooting at Nadja, and they blow up a car. And like Nadja gets injured, so she has to go home, right? And they have to finish her off, right? They don't show like the car being exploded, right? Because obviously this is a '90s independent film. It's very low budget. So the movie, this movie is very hard to like rate, because most people are not gonna like the movie. It's like I said, it's almost like a movie. It's like an art house film where you have it on the background, right? And you enjoy the images and stuff, but it's not really like it's hard to explain. It's one of those movies where like you would have like aesthetically it looks cool, so you would have it in the background at a party, but it's not a movie you're gonna sit down and enjoy, right? Except maybe like the scenes where Peter Fonda, right? Yeah, but other than that, like this movie is very like it's a very weird and surreal film, and most people are not gonna like it. And David Lynch, man, like he couldn't. He's only like in one scene, and like he doesn't say anything. He doesn't have any funny lines, or like have a funny performance like he has in like other cameos that he's done for like other movies and TV shows, like in Family Guy, that Louis C.K. show where he plays like the producer, and like on Twin Peaks where he plays the deaf like FBI director. He has like a very minimalist role. But like the movie, I would say if you're a fan of 90s independent films and you're a fan of David Lynch films, right? And this movie's obviously like it's David Lynch approved because he presented the film and he had a cameo. Then I think maybe you'll enjoy it, but for casual film fans, you're probably not gonna like it. But I'm gonna give it like a 6.5 out of 10. It's one of those movies where I would not casually just rewatch it, but like I would love to show this film to my friends who are also into like weird films. So that's it for this review. For tomorrow, for the Vampire Week finale, I was gonna review 2001's Forsaken, but like I can't get a copy right now. So like I can't find a copy right now. So we're just gonna review Queen of the Damned. All right, guys, peace.